Hello there. Welcome to my website, and I hope you'll listen to my program this weekend. I want to, first of all, thank so many of you throughout the country and even throughout the world. I've gotten texts and I've gotten email messages about the terrible tragedy that took place here in Baton Rouge this past week, where 3 police officers were killed, 3 seriously injured. One may not make it. He's still in intensive care on life support. And so it was a huge tragedy. And the overwhelming outpouring of so many of my listeners on the radio and people who I write columns for, newspapers, or those you read those columns, has been well received. We appreciate it. And I've shared that with so many of my friends here in the Baton Rouge area. Let me tell you, if you weren't aware of my personal involvement, just what happened. I get up on Sunday mornings. It's usually quiet. I get the morning newspapers, get up early, go to a local coffee shop very close to where we broadcast from our Sunday radio show. And I go on there at 9 o'clock Central Time, although some of the stations, some of you listen to it in the afternoon or other times during the day. But I get up and went down to have my coffee, was reading all the papers, looking for ideas about what to talk about on the radio show. Several police officers there, as they always are on Sunday mornings, getting a cup of coffee, take a little break themselves. We visited a little bit about the terrible Dallas situation and the fact that Baton Rouge is pretty calm, particularly since there'd been a high-profile shooting just the week before. And so we talked a while. I went over to do my show, went on the air right at 9 o'clock. And about 9:06, just as my show had begun, I got an emergency text from my wife saying that police officers were down, shootings taking place just a matter of blocks from where I was broadcasting from. Well, once I got to the break on the radio station, I immediately called her. She'd heard from a friend that had not even been on the news yet. And then it was just starting to come on local news in terms of what happened. She outlined to me that at least 2 officers were killed, others possibly injured. There was a lone shooter, they thought. They weren't sure. There were rumors maybe there were other shooters. Go lock your doors. The rumors were flying just fast and furious, as you well could imagine. I immediately went on the air, and I think I had to be the first national correspondent or national voice talking about what happened in Baton Rouge while the shootings were going on. This happened from 9 to about 10 o'clock. And I broadcast as I got the report through most of the program. You can find that program by going to on the website, going up to the left column, going up to Genesis Communications, and all of my programs are podcast there if you want to take a look at what was said. Well, now we've learned the terrible truth that 3 officers were killed. One in particular, Corporal Montrell Jackson, African-American police officer. As extra duty, he patrolled my neighborhood. We have a little neighborhood association. We pay for extra security for police officers. And the corporal was in the neighborhood all the time. And Corporal Jackson would usually station himself just in the neighborhood of my home. And I let him know that we had a large refrigerator in the garage. It was easily available for him. We had a restroom there. He was welcome to come anytime he wanted. In fact, I liked the idea of the police officer coming in to my driveway. And it was good for safety for us and a service for him and the other officers that patrolled our neighborhood. This happened on Saturday. I think Wednesday was the last time I saw Corporal Jackson. He was sitting down at the corner, and I had, hot as can be as it is all over the country, I gave him a cold bottle of water, and we visited for a bit and talked about the local political situation. He had a 4-month-old child. We visited about the fact that my grandchildren were in and out and how much we wish we could spend more time with our children. Anyway, just a brief conversation there on the side of the road. He went about his way, I went about my way. And then I had to report on Saturday that this fine police officer was killed in the line of duty, So a terrible tragedy for our area, and certainly heightens the racial tension. The shooter was from Kansas City, was not from our area. That didn't give us any solace. It was probably good for the community that we didn't have a local shooter. It was an outside shooter, and that was disturbing. And he would come into our community and feel the wrath and the derangement that would have to come in and undertake this killing. I want to read you what Corporal Jackson wrote on his Facebook page. He wrote this 3 or 4 days, about the day I saw him, just a few days before his death. He wrote this. He says, I swear to, this is right after the killing that took place the week before in Baton Rouge. The African American selling CDs on the side of the road or in front of a convenience store, and he was waving a gun, according to police reports, and he was killed in the confrontation that took place. Well, after that happened, but before his death, here's what Corporal Jackson wrote. He said, "I swear to God, I love this city, but I wonder if this city loves me," he wrote. "In uniform, I get nasty, hateful looks, and out of uniform, some consider me a threat. Please don't let hate infect your heart. The city must and will get better." And of course, a few days later, he was dead. But the feelings he gets as an African American in the community, as a police officer, that often is looked down on in our community. So a very deep tragedy that happened in my city. We're trying to learn from it. There's a dialogue, but the dialogue's got to be two ways. When you look at Dallas in terms of what happened over in Dallas, the fact now we've got 18 police officers dead in a matter of a few weeks. So yes, there's a dialogue that has to take place. Yes, there's obviously deep concerns in the Black community, but officers like Corporal Jackson and others also share deep concerns, and the dialogue is a two-way street. It's got to go both ways. We'll talk about it again on this Sunday radio show. I'll review what has happened, and we'll talk a little bit more about possible solutions. Glad you spent some time with me. Hope you look over this column I wrote this week and spend some more time on my website. Thanks for listening.